A very good morning to you. Welcome to the broadcast. You're watching Morning Express and you're right on time on this 6th day of August. We're here to inform you about the latest developments and we'll do just that. My name is Jesse Rogers. It being a Friday, we'll start with the latest in terms of press review, what you should expect in today's dailies, even as later on we transist to what happened earlier on in the week on Week in Review. A lot of political developments in the country, even as Form 1s mark the final day of admission today. We'll get to take a look at some of those developing stories that caught your eye in the course of the week. Even as we do that, let's take a look at what's making headlines in today's dailies. Just taking a look at the front page of The Standard, of which I have with me Kenya's Bold newspaper. Ruto, I will leave Jubilee when I want. Those are his words just yesterday in terms of charting a new course. And pushed to the periphery of a government he could run with his boss, the DP hosted over 100 members of parliament for talks in Karen and declared that they will formally quit government at a time of their own choosing. They joined by choice and they will leave by choice. Nobody should ask why we are still here. Those are the words of Deputy President William Ruto just yesterday after chairing that particular parliamentary group meeting for the UDA party. And we'll have those highlights even as we take a look at some other stories making headlines. And as you can see, it's all smiles as the Kenyan athlete Kipsang set the 1,500 meters Olympic record in the heats. I think it was the semi-finals rather, and that's quite an accomplishment, I must say, even before the finals are actually decided. That's on the front page of The Standard. Taking a look at the Daily Nation, what you can expect. It's all to do with the referendum drumbeats. Uhuru, Raila, members of parliament craft new BBI bill, where the House team, packed with the Handshake Partners loyalists, proposes amendments that seeks to shorten the timelines and make it easier to pass the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill by lowering the threshold on voting, petitions, and announcement of results. So it's all eyes on the Court of Appeal, who are set to give their ruling on August 20th. But Parliament is not waiting as they're lying down. Definitely a lot more happening behind the scenes, and we'll get to engage some parliamentarians on that. Even as COVID super spreaders, politicians seem to fuel the surge. And they've quoted it as rallies of death right there, where politicians led by Deputy President William Ruto, ODM leader Raila Odinga, Wiper Chief Kalonzo Musyoka, and ANC's Musalia Mudavadi continue to blatantly disregard the ban on political gatherings amid a COVID-19 spike in the country. In the last 2 months, the four have been hosting and addressing crowds and delegations across the country, with the DP even hosting a Tanga parliamentary group meeting at his Karen home yesterday. So they've broken down the numbers in terms of the total number of infections in the country, the people who have died of the disease as of Wednesday, and just yesterday, 30 lost their lives due to COVID-19. So we might be tired of the virus, but the virus is definitely not tired of us. Make sure you stay safe even in the thick of these political gatherings, which have been termed as super spreader events. The politicians sort of receiving the criticism this time round in terms of flouting these guidelines by the Ministry of Health. But be that as it may, that's not just the stories over here. We also have, we know nothing of Ruto's visit, Uganda says, in regards to that particular story that has made headlines in the last 2 days or so, even as President Uhuru has nominated 4 to be IEBC commissioners, well, pending authorization by Parliament. We'll definitely get to take a look at these stories and much more. So let's begin with the top story on Kenya's Bold newspaper, The Standard, the parliamentary group meeting that was held just yesterday by UDA, where Deputy President William Ruto and his allies now say they will not be coerced to leave Jubilee party, arguing that they are not visitors in the ruling party but founders. While poking holes on the ruling Jubilee regime and its leadership, Ruto said they will only leave when it's convenient for them to do so, ahead of the 2022 general election. And as Chris Thairo reports, the leaders blamed former NASA principals for the messy place the party finds itself today.
48 hours after the humiliating events at the Wilson Airport, where the Deputy President William Ruto was blocked from traveling to the neighboring country Uganda, Ruto marshaled over 100 legislators supporting his 2022 presidential bid. The purpose of the meeting was to forge a way forward under the new kid on the block, the UDA party. And from the onset, they made it clear that they are not about to ditch a Jubilee party and officially join UDA.
Sisi si waalikwa. We are not guests in any place. We join parties by choice, and you live by choice.
Further, the legislators went ahead to criticize the Jubilee administration for losing track of its agenda for the nation. And for them, Jubilee had failed to realize its goals due to the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga.
The governing Jubilee party has collapsed. The opposition NASA coalition has disintegrated. The Hasran nation has found a new home in the United Democratic Alliance.
Regrettably, the NASA coalition, its principals, and their Jubilee collaborators took the government hostage, hijacked its agenda, and one, completely destroyed the governing Jubilee party and dismembered the entire opposition coalition.
The leaders also pushed their bottom-up economic approach.
We welcome our competitors who have graciously accepted to join us in the conversation about the economy of our country, about ordinary people, about jobs, about enterprise. We want to tell them we are ready and we want to engage in that conversation that is going to bury forever the politics of ethnicity. They should equally explain to the country how their trickle-down economic model that has not worked for the last 50, 60 years is going to work this time round. Bottom-up holds the key to not only us creating jobs, creating enterprise, and enabling our farmers, it also provides the key to us sorting out the big crisis of debt by making sure we have more Kenyans brought into the tax-paying bracket.
Conspicuously missing was Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria, whose absence, some sources say, is as a result of differences with Deputy President William Ruto. The fiery MP is said to have formed another party, Chama cha Kazi, after ditching his People's Empowerment Party, which has one MP. With exactly 1 year and 3 days to the next general election, already political temperatures are rising and new political formations taking shape by the day. However, COVID-19 pandemic might affect the campaigns, given that the new infections continue rising by the day. Chris Thairo, KTN News, at the official residence of the Deputy President in Karen.
Okay, so that's the latest in terms of what transpired yesterday in Karen, the PG meeting at the official residence of the Deputy President, where over 100 members of the National Assembly and Senate yesterday met and sort of charted the way forward. A couple of issues they tackled, including the question on economics. They had a response to Uhuru, the grassroots polls, and as I mentioned, an explainer on bottom-up economic model. So we'll stick to those pointers. Allow me to introduce my panelists so far. Professor Gitile Naituli joining me right here in studio. He's a former NCIC commissioner. It's great to have you, and thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jesse, and thank you to your viewers.
Okay, we're also joined via way of Zoom from Kwale County, Kasim Tandaza, Member of Parliament Matuga constituency. It's great to have you. Shikamo.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, our esteemed viewers.
Okay, so let's start on this particular meeting. Prof, I'll start with you since you don't have any affiliations to parties. So let me just quote what Deputy President said. We are not guests in any place. We join parties by choice and we leave by choice. Nobody should ask why we are still here. So they're still waiting their time within the Jubilee file and rank until the divorce happens. So what say you about that statement? A show of might, don't you think?
Assessment is correct without the law. The law says we have a freedom to join the party, freedom to participate in the party, and freedom to live in the party. So that's what the Deputy President is quoting. I don't know about the show of mind, but what I can say, though, is that the Deputy President has fundamentally changed the discourse, the political discourse in the country. Whether we like him or not, that's totally irrelevant. We are all talking economics now. Very soon we will discuss the bottom 90% of the country, the one JM Kariuki at one time called the 10 beggars and 10 millionaires. Mm-hmm. That is where we are now. And that is a credit to him. I think he has changed how the politics is run in Kenya, and very likely the 2022 election may very well mirror the 1963 election, where we vote without the tribe.
Okay, let's see if that actually transpires. But according to their statement, the leaders said that the Hustler Nation believes in a new economic and political paradigm that prioritizes bottom-up over trickle-down economics, the people over their leader, and empowerment over power sharing. Kasim Tandaza, what also caught my eye is that the team claimed that Uhuru's camp, in collaboration with NASA principals, took the Jubilee administration hostage and hijacked its agenda, leading to its present failures. So this tug of incumbency seems to be following the NASA affiliate leaders. Well, what say you about this?
Jesse, that is very interesting, but to me, not really the situation. Because I'm looking at the Jubilee administration in its first term and its second term, and versus what held this country. I agree, and I think everybody will agree with the Deputy President and any other leader, including NC party leader, talking about the economy. That is where the problem is. Now, in the first 5 years of Jubilee administration, where there was no handshake, there was no NASA even that time, how are the corruption levels? Because to me, if you look at what held the country, then it is the public debt. They started ballooning in the first Jubilee administration. Was corruption any lesser in the first 5 years of Jubilee administration? No, and I think this is in public domain. Looking at the job creation, the Jubilee administration promised us 1 million jobs. Were they there? No. The Stadia? No. What did they promise? Let's go back to the agendas. If we refer to the four main agendas of Jubilee administration, what happened to food security? Galana Kulalu, was it successful in the first 5 years and now it collapsed in the second part when the handshake happened and the opposition? No. So I think when it comes to politicking, of course, you'll always have your lines and run away with them. But to me, the Jubilee administration actually never fulfilled what they promised Kenyans, even without NASA, even without handshake. And I'm looking at the first 5 years. So when it comes now, nothing stops the Jubilee administration actually fulfilling, because as I sit here, I know the mandate of fulfilling the agendas is with the executive. The president is still there, the deputy president is still there, he's still with his cabinet. We appropriate monies, they bring their budget, they bring their proposals, okay, we debate, plus minus, that is normal, we give it back to them. So what is this that you could really blame us in opposition, in ANC, in ODM, or in any other party, stopping them from bringing investors here? If anything, we could have maybe as we approach the general election, we are trying very much to have our desire in the opposition has been to have an election without any animosity without any strife after that. And to me, that gives more confidence to investors, who is the executive, it is the current government that can weigh in investors, can create in policies. At no point has the opposition opposed any policies which will be so conducive to investors here, which will be so conducive to the medium and small enterprises, micro enterprises. We've never opposed. So what is this that we really can be blamed in the opposition to have derailed the agenda? Yes.
Okay, it seems, perhaps if I also borrow, Prof, as you heard your voice, if I borrow from what the DP said in that one-on-one interview, he mentioned that some of the NASA members of parliament have taken over committee leadership, even mentioning the finance committee, for example. So in one or the other, they're in government, but they have been sidelined. Prof, what's your take on that?
I just like to advise my brother Kasim Tandasa that his party is not necessarily in government, and therefore he should not defend what is so obvious, that the opposition actually joining government. The opposition is now is in government. It's part of the government because the parliamentary committees, they took over the parliamentary committees. So I think why I said I would like him to disassociate himself is because he can defend. He can defend the ANC, but he can't defend the ODM and the other parties. And therefore, when you are in government, it means you are a decision maker. So the opposition hands all the committees in the parliament. Parliament is where the politics, the real politics take place, because that's where we distribute the little resources that we have. So the incumbency, right now, if you ask any Kenyan here, they know the only fellow who is not in government is the deputy president. The other people are in government. So I don't think, I think the leader of Tandasa's party, ANC, that he can be independent, because I think he's one of the most principled Kenyans have seen. At one time, he lost the election, I think in 2002. He was nominated by Kanu, and he rejected the nomination. We have not seen that much principles in the country. So I think my friend should not defend the obvious here. The obvious is the opposition is now in bed with the government, and therefore they cannot deny that.
Okay. So Kasim, are you more in government than those affiliated to UDA?
You see, Jesse and Prof, we are looking at my position is, look at the first 5 years of the Jubilee government. You know, Jubilee government has been in power for 9 years now. So I was looking at the performance of the Jubilee government in the 5 years, where there was no interference, so to put, where the opposition was not in government. Their performance and versus the performance of these 4 years, where we are saying opposition has now joined the government. Did it perform any better? Because that to me would be the yardstick that, look, in the 5 years, when there was no interference, we promised Kenyans stadia, here they are. We promised Kenyans 10 million jobs every year. They came. We promised zero tolerance to corruption, and you can see how we perform. Now, this the way things are. To me, that will be the basis of the argument, really, if we are to compare the interference, the yardstick for interference between the opposition being in government, in this current government, and when it was not there. I think that is where we will really be convinced that true, the handshake, so to speak, derailed the government agenda.
So it sort of makes sense, and that is where they're arguing at. Perhaps the handshake and engaging in the BBI process sort of derailed the government agenda in terms of Big Four and the likes. Prof, let's shift focus over to the political angle of this all. I mean, I'm sure UDA didn't come out clearly in terms of the coalitions and merger of parties, but this must be on their minds in terms of strengthening their camp. Well, what say you about the possibilities going forward? Because in politics, it's all to do with interest, and we shouldn't be shocked if political enemies, quote unquote, merge camps. Do you see such possibilities?
Sure. Because like we have said before, there is no really political enemies in Kenya at all. Of course, politics is about interest. but also it's about principles and in belief in something bigger than the party and bigger than yourself. So in this country, we don't have that caliber of politicians, let's face it. We have people who seek power, basically sometimes for his own sake or to access goons of corruption, because the power allows you to do corruption without worrying about the law. So these people can enjoy in any way, absolutely. Anyone who thinks that there is enemies here does not live in this country. They can always come together, wherever they see their interests will be served. And they seek power, and we will vote for them because that's what we always do. We vote for them.
So special purpose vehicles. Okay. Kasim, let's talk about bottom-up economics before we get into this coalition forming, because I'm sure you have a lot to tell us on that. The DP's bottom-up economic model has definitely been the subject of criticism over the past few weeks. ODM leader claiming it's a mere system of handouts. Your party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, dismissing it as mere semantics. But the question is, what's so wrong with bottom-up economics? I mean, if the US Democrats are sort of touting for it, might that be the silver bullet that this economy needs?
Well, Jesse, I've said before here, I don't think what ails the economy of this country, what ails the Kenyan ordinary person, so to speak, is about models. It is about the basis of reviving the economy. And when you compare that model that, okay, it can be applied in Kenya and it should be the one because it's being used in the US, to me, what is the elephant in the room in this country, number one, is the corruption level. Because even if you are to say now, you are going to start with the bottom. And remember, this is, to me, I will equate it with the different funds that we have in this country. The Wezo Fund is aimed for the lower cadre. The Wezo Fund is not meant to give credit to those in the upper echelons. We have the Wezo Fund, we have the Youth Fund, we have GAF, the Women Fund, and so many other funds meant to be lending to the lower, because if probably lack of credit is the issue, those funds are there. But how much actually ends into those who are really intended? I think the Auditor General, was it last month, he flagged out how much is lost in the Wezo Fund between when it's released from the Treasury to when it's supposed to have reached the lower cadre where we are aiming. So, talking about models, probably, but to me it's more of academics actually. But the real problem, if we are to help this country, if any leader, whoever comes in 2022, should get to the root cause of where we are right now. And it is corruption. If you are going to give money to the lower, but you are not able to provide the basics in healthcare, in education, in infrastructure, all the monies are lost, and that is taxpayers' money, then ultimately you will not have money to actually continue helping, giving to the ones who are at the lowest cadre. So to me, Jesse and our viewers, we should handle the bull by the horns. Whoever come August 2022, to me handles three basic issues: corruption, and then of course the ballooning debt, because that is where almost all our taxes are going. And then certainly we need to go back to bringing in investment. And when you bring in investment, we'll be talking of manufacturing, which is going to create quite a number of jobs. Manufacturing, and now we need to move to IT, because this is the era of information technology. But all that can be done if we lower the cost of energy. And the cost of energy here, we know, is the one which is putting off most of the investors, is the one which has made the big investors in this country moving out to our neighboring country because of, one, the cost of energy, and two, the issue of corruption, where you are to pay kickbacks for whatever thing you want to do. And I think this is in the public domain. We've discussed this several times. So it could be trickle down, it could be trickling sideways, it could be trickling up, it could be bottoms up, it could be bottoms where. But to me, if there is a model that we would be talking about, would be handling corruption, handling the ballooning debt, which is consuming most of our taxpayers' money right now, and bringing down the cost of doing business in this country.
Okay, so Professor, from where you sit, what will serve the country best? I mean, I know various leaders might be touting for fight against corruption, lower cost of energy. Others are pushing for trickle down, bottom up. When Kenyans take a look at these concepts, which serves them right, according to you?
I think the Ruto's bottom-up model serves the Kenyan right because they can very easily identify with it. You see, when you look at the Kibaki economic model, was actually bottom-up model. Kibaki invested heavily in education. Kibaki gave us the genuinely free primary education, if you remember, until we stole the money and the donors withdrew the support. Couldn't control the VIPs in government, I guess. But if you look at the Kibaki operation, it was a bottom-up. Kibaki removed the government from the money market. He allowed the public to borrow money because the banks are nowhere to take the money, so they were hawking. I remember the banks coming to the university, persuading people to borrow money. That was basically bottom-up economics. So the Kenyans are identifying with it, and my advice to people who are seeking power, to the opposition parties, to also get the parties in government, is you don't dismiss this model and make a joke of it, because people have identified with it. Find an alternative model and then articulate that alternative vision so that the country can understand you and shift from the one you think is weak or is not proper. So the jokes being made about the model, for me, I think is missing the point.
Yeah.
Because the point is, look at the Kibaki economy. Kibaki balanced the budget without borrowing money. He balanced, for the first time, we had a balanced budget under Kibaki government.
So where did the rain start beating us? Because even listening to ODM just yesterday, they were putting DP's camp to task to explain why they didn't implement this bottom-up approach during the first term of the Jubilee administration, while he wielded influence within the government.
I think that question is not particularly brilliant. I'll tell you why. Kibaki was vice president for some thorough years and more. How did the economy perform? But when he became the president, he changed things dramatically. So the question is not accurate. That's why I'm saying they need to think deeper. They need to challenge this model, this UDA or Ruto's model, with serious analysis, serious fact, and an alternative. They can't just pose questions like that, because those are questions hanging in the air. When you look at history, I mean, look, would you have said that Kibaki would have performed the way he did? So when you have the levers of power, it's completely different than when you are serving under someone else. Totally different.
Okay, well noted. Kasim, do you have any addition to that point?
Yeah. My addition to that point is just emphasis to Professor that he has mentioned it quite correctly, but not emphasized that if it is actually leveraging that sources to the lower cadre of this society, it has always been there. It has been practiced. But the main failure of any model, so to speak, is when now corruption comes in. And I think this is where my point is. Those aspiring to lead this country, the presidential candidate, I wish they could give us more of how they are going to determine corruption. Because to me, that is what is destroying any model, any progress.
Oh, I know I agree with Kasim on that. Because first what they need to tackle is the disorder in the country. There's a very serious disorder. Disorder brings corruption. Because Kasim reminds me of a presidential executive order number 2 of 2018, which was very clear on government procurement, what should be done, who have you given the tender, what were the reason, who tendered. Now, that was never implemented. If that executive order was implemented, AFIA 1 would never have taken place, AFIA 2 would never have occurred, the NYS would never have taken place, the KEMSA scandal would never have occurred. So somebody who can promise us actually to put the government at work. When the president issued an executive order, the God on earth has spoken. That must be obeyed. So what we have been finding is the president issued such a beautiful document intended to arrest corruption, then he is ignored 100% by the civil service, and then nothing happens. So, the candidates out there, I don't know which one of them can promise us that they will tackle this monster, and we actually believe them because we have had it before. We have never seen any progress. So the Kenyans are stuck actually with the old crop. If it were for me, I would advise the Kenyans to go out and look for a very serious new person. Look for Angela Rawlings. And you can fix it. So I agree with the Kazim Tandrasa 100% on that one.
All right, gentlemen. Since we're in agreement and the conversation from now on seems to be centered on the economy, hopefully this will be sustained and the promises will be delivered. But more details on that particular PG meeting that was held yesterday on today's dailies, page 6 of the Standard right there. But let's talk about the latest political intrigues within the ruling Jubilee party, even as they seem to revive plans for a 2022 coalition with ODM. And these plans are in top gear ahead of next year's general election. Sources indicate that the two parties have formed a technical committee to farm up a working formula, even as Jubilee party leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and ODM leader Raila Odinga plan to hold a meeting. Jeff Kirui with the details.
And unity.
Barely a year to August 9th, 2022 general election, the March 9th, 2018 cooperation deal between President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga appears to be moving to the next stage as talks of forming a formidable coalition hits fever pitch.
Munaona Jacob, munaona Rais, because we are there. Hapo ndio sisi tupo. Niliongea na sitaongea tena, nikaambia watu prepare for Jacob to be the fifth president. Na wale wana macho wanaona. Ama hamuoni? Tunaona. Dalili ya mvua ni nini?
The two gentlemen are working in coalition, so to speak, or in association to make agendas run smoothly.
President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga were set to meet at the coast. They are close allies, alluding to talks relating to mooted coalition between the two parties.
They won. Okay? Hata hii inakuja. Tukishikana Mount Kenya na Nyanza, Western and the rest of the country, we shall win.
With the collapse of the moribund NASA coalition and three affiliate parties, ANC, Wiper and Ford Kenya advancing a new outfit in One Kenya Alliance, ODM party has been outspoken on seeking a new partnership. All this comes at a time when President Kenyatta's allies appear to be pushing for Raila candidature in next year's general election.
With BBI or without? BBI. Sasa kama haitakuwa BBI imeingia, mujipange vile tunaingiza Jacob, akuwe nani? Rais under the current constitution.
This is the Raila moment. Look around, who can do it? Uhuru have tried with the 4 big agenda alone when his deputy was rebelling. Now, the person who can complete those projects is Raila Odinga. Why? Because of vision, maturity, and also ability to work with people.
ODM leader Odinga has been worming his way to Mount Kenya region, constantly holding meetings with political stakeholders in a bid to sway the region to his side as he seeks to attempt a 5th stab at the presidency. Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
A 5th stab at the presidency. Let's see if it will be the last bullet. But let me quote David Murave. He said this: NASA is dead and it's the right time for ODM and Jubilee to form an alliance. We are going to work together. Every time people from Nyanza and those from Mount Kenya come together, good things happen and we always win. So, Prof, when the mountain and people from Nyanza come together, good things happen. Do you read that such a move from this? Because critics might argue, and I might also borrow from what DP mentioned during that interview, vile wanapelekwa, wanapangwa, watenda kuzama huko, you know, something like that. So what do you read from this planned 2022 coalition?
First of all, Murathe's statement is accurate. When you look at the Kenya's history, every time the mountain actually got together with the lake, Kenya made progress. They got together in 1960s, they brought us independence. They got together in 2000, they brought the multi-party system. So that statement is apt, is accurate, except it's being now put in the wrong time. Right now, that coalition, I want to predict that it's very unlikely. Remember, I'm not saying it will not. I'm saying it's unlikely to deliver. Why? Because it's riding on a weak economy. When the economy is weak, the incumbents will always pay the price. And I think it's not very clever for ODM to each itself on the bandwagon of the Jubilee now, because the economy, whether it's the Jubilee's mistake or whether it's the COVID, is completely irrelevant. People don't understand that. But also, there is something here, I don't know whether I'm the only one who is hearing this. The bottom-up fellows, they are brilliantly touched on the road now, especially in Central Kenya. Central Kenya has a serious class division of poor and rich people, which other people, you see, when the other Kenyans are poor and they are miserable, sometimes they are not able to locate the source of their misery. Okay. The Central Kenya has a stock of fairly educated population, which can locate their misery to the policies the government makes. That is a big difference from the previous alliances. So this mobilization, the youth, the stock, you know, youth have 56% of the country. So as long as this economy does not improve, and it will not because of the time left, it's going to be, whatever coalition they make, it will be very, very big, it will be a very big challenge. That's why I don't understand how people like Mudavadi decided to join. Because Mudavadi would have sold himself better from outside than from inside. This is what is benefiting Ruto. By the way, Ruto is considered an outsider, and therefore somebody who can offer a solution. And that is why you see there's some kind of a panic within the system that we may not be able to stop this fellow.
Okay, noted. Kasim Tandaza, as you add your voice to this, I know you don't prescribe to the ideologies of these parties, but going with what the front runners of Jubilee and ODM mentioned, they just need a percentage of the mountain to vote in favor of Raila, and that's basically it, just a percentage. So from where you sit in terms of strategy, because politics is all to do with this, is this a right move, considering One Kenya Alliance is in the periphery, also inviting Raila Odinga within its foray?
Well, Jesse, the last previous line where you said that we need a percentage of Mount Kenya and they are in, I also don't think that is true, because they are working on the basis that the previous percentage, the previous basket is still as it were in 2017, so you need that percentage. But remember, so much has happened between 2017 and now. That is even prior to 2017. Western, where ODM used to enjoy a fanatical following, is not the case right now. First, is not the case. Let's be very realistic. And the faster or the sooner the ODM brigade come to that reality, the better. So, in Kiswahili tunamsema kwamba unatengeneza usitu, there is a kamba, that is a rock. You are trying to make a rock, and on the other side it is burning. So, unfortunately, it is burning faster than the way you are trying to make that rock. That is one. Two, I agree with the professor, and this applies across board, not just for ODM, but even for my party, NC. I want to be very bold here. We don't have a history in this country of an incumbent endorsing somebody or endorsing something and succeeding. And this started, we can go back where our elections have been, from Moi's time when he was absolute Baba and Mama, he couldn't eat. From when transiting Kibaki to this government, whatever Kibaki had in mind, what was perceived that he had in mind in terms of succession, it didn't work. So anybody or any party lying on the incumbent, as the professor said, to actually win the next general election, that is a mirage. And this one we have to agree. If you want to win the election, go to the people, talk to them. What else there? It is the economy. Hakuna pesa. There is no money in the pocket. Taxation is high. Talk to those people, whether in Mount Kenya, whether in Lamu, whether in Turkana, whether in Western, wherever. Talk to these people. Talk to the voters. And I think that is where the votes will come from, and that is where the next president will get his powers. Otherwise, even for us, the NC, waiting for an endorsement or waiting to be given green light now to enter Mount Kenya, I think that is a mirage. Kenya is one. Unfortunately, I think what has brought this kind of discourse now is the peace that we're enjoying, which it is my hope that it should go beyond 2022, peace that we enjoy, so that we can discuss freely and everybody can be able to move to any part of this country without any hindrances from those gatekeepers, be it in Mount Kenya, be it in Western, be it in court. Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of movement within these political parties. ODM, according to that particular meeting, already have their structures in place. Jubilee are set to hit the ground running with mass member registration and civic education, sort of popularizing the party ahead of the 2022 general election. More details on page 5 of the Standard. On that particular note, gentlemen, let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue with press review. Finally, IEBC might be fully constituted after 3 or so years. That's good news as we get closer to the general election, even as politicians have received the blame for being super spreaders in this COVID-19 times. We'll be back with this and much more. Stay with us.